Right, hey guys, how are we doing? Back on another video from Totally Not Mark, and literally, I've just finished the Alabasta Arc 20 minutes before filming this, and I loved it. I kind of stopped for a bit because I was working on all this stuff, and then as soon as I started picking it back up again, I was like, oh my god, this is incredible. It was so much fun. It was absolutely awesome. The characters were boss, the villains were boss, the little seeds of mystery that are being planted along the way are absolutely awesome as well. Like the girl that was partnered with Crocodile, who could read the stone tablet thing, saved Luffy after he fought Crocodile, and mentioned the whole name of D thing, which I think is something that's being really hinted at being a big deal, because previously we had the female doctor in the last one, didn't we, who mentioned the will of D, and Gold Roger's that name was actually Goldie Roger, so something else is going on with that. But anyway, let's see what Totally Not Mark had to say about the Alabasta Arc, shall we? Oh, the duck was cool, I love the duck! Oh, Crook was his name? Terrible with names, I'm so sorry, names is just not my thing, I forget.
One Piece's Alabasta Arc is the best manga experience I've had in my entire life.
Yeah, it is fun, to be fair, it's boss, it's so good.
I knew this was going to be good, and there's been plenty of tension and suspense building over the course of the last few arcs.
Yeah.
Certainly enough to tickle my little Irish feet, but I didn't know it was going to be this good.
Yeah.
Like, this is advanced good. And over the course of this video, I will try to communicate to you all just how the best the Alabasta Arc was for me, someone entirely new to this series. Over the last three videos,
I'm enjoying it so much.
explored their past and explained the circumstances that have been building. But today,
that moment at the end.
in this arc, the culmination of over 100 chapters of
Vivi.
phenomenal storytelling, character writing, and world building. I'm Totally Not Mark, and these are my
the fight with Crocodile's so good.
And review 4, the greatest arc One Piece has offered up to this point. This is the writing.
It is best bit so far, like.
Alabasta Arc.
Oh my god, blown away, man.
Differences between this and the other arcs prior can be seen first and foremost in its length. It's a long one, sure.
It is, yeah.
First, I want to impress upon you just how long this was and how stupid I was when reading it.
Oh, go on,
The arc itself spans 62 chapters, which translates to about 6.5 volumes of manga. This is by far the most I've ever had to read in a given week for a single video.
Oh damn, okay, yeah, because he's just a weekly, doesn't he?
With only 2 days to read the manga before I needed to write this script. Needless to say, I did it, but my hands.
In all fairness, though, I read 3 of the volumes this morning.
This story is fun and great. So, in order for me to break down my impressions,
Like, quite literally, Smoker, he's cool, man. How he is at the end when the Straw Hats save everyone.
Remotely possible for me to analyze and present to you. And so, with this disclaimer out of the way, let's talk about the first section: the world and setup.
Zawao, dog.
The story of the Alabasta Arc covers the kingdom's rebellion against their king and how the Baroque works, led by Crocodile, has influenced the politics in the region in order to achieve what he wants. It kicks things off as the Straw Hat crew we've been following for the last 100 or so chapters finally begin to near the kingdom.
Yay!
It's a fascinating tale of friendship, war, betrayal.
Oh, that hammer, man.
But for me personally, this is the moment One Piece stopped being just a great manga and became, for me, a true epic I think everyone needs to experience.
Yeah, definitely. Everyone needs to experience the Alabasta Arc. It's like, oh.
Reading One Piece over the last month, I think I've discovered the secret to Oda's writing. How he always seems to catch me by surprise. He sets up way too many things for me to even attempt to keep track of in my mind. And that's
Yeah, he got so much. The Ace just disappears, doesn't he? Yeah.
What makes his world feel so alive and chaotic all the time.
And he mentioned Blackbeard. He mentioned Blackbeard, didn't he? Who was part of Whitebeard's crew, and he's hunting him down. So I feel like that's going to come into it at some point.
That eventually I have to say to myself, alright Oda, you win, take me where you want to go.
Yeah, wherever, yeah.
Super fun for me, and the means with which this arc opens is really interesting, as it provides intrigue and suspense for us, the audience, without any conflict right away. Kicking things off, we get a scene wherein
he's
Mr. 2,
funny, man.
the main Baroque Works agents working for Crocodile, gets picked up by Luffy and the gang. At this point in the story,
and he doesn't realise who they are, and they don't realise who he is yet.
Is a complete unknown to them too, which is a fantastic example of dramatic irony.
Love it.
Which means that we, the audience, know more than the characters.
Yeah, the actual characters in the show. Yeah.
In this case, we know that Luffy and the gang want to avoid this guy, and we know that Mr. 2 would want to apprehend this crew too, had he known about them.
Neither of them know.
They make friends is both funny and nerve-wracking, as in the
Yeah, it's like, oh, does he find out before he leaves?
The Straw Hat crew the element of surprise in the first place. But during this interaction with Mr. 2, as a party trick, he reveals his devil fruit powers to transform.
Which made you think, ooh, that's going to come into it at some point.
It quickly becomes apparent to the crew just how lucky they really were. Learning about Mr. 2's identity. And so in an attempt to stay one step ahead of him, the gang elect to tie a piece of cloth onto their left arms to identify themselves to each other if he ever becomes a problem in the future. Now,
which becomes a thing later on.
We haven't even arrived at Alabasta yet, and we already have so many things to keep track of.
And that is a big thing at the end.
As once we do touch down, we are introduced to Captain Smoker, who's already there looking for Luffy, and we are introduced for the first time to this Ace character from the end of the last arc.
Is that meant to be Through the Fire and the Flames?
So I'll try to cover what I thought about him succinctly. We learned that his real name is Portgas D. Ace, and that he's Luffy's brother, which raises all sorts of questions for me, like, are there no surnames in this world?
Yeah.
What's the connection between him, Luffy, and Gold D. Roger?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he's his father.
Yeah.
I feel like that's maybe too obvious. We also learned that Ace has a
Devil Fruit of Fire,
which makes him the Human Torch, which makes him objectively the coolest character now in the entire series.
Yeah.
Essentially, his character is here to offer.
Don't know, the guy with the sword Devil Fruit was pretty cool, but my god, that helps Zoro.
This piece of paper with
nothing on it. Yeah, what's that about?
So many things to remember and think about. Like Ace mentioned in the last arc that he was looking for Blackbeard. Then when he realized that he was long gone, he decided to look for Luffy. Like, is time travel involved in this? I have too many things to consider with this character. I know at this point that I'm trying to remember everything, which is a fool's errand, as I have at this point no way of telling which piece of information is pertinent to this story or what
on the next or whatever. Yeah.
So for the first time in the series so far, I have to relinquish control of my brain to Oda.
Yep, definitely.
Piece, you have beaten.
Yeah, it's incredible. There's too much going on, man. But it's so evenly paced.
She has to stop this senseless fighting. And
that's a friend. That was cool as well.
Three separate storylines are set in motion in three different areas of Alabasta, which Oda uses as an excuse to teach us the geography of the country. And by the time
it's cool. You got the rebels, you've got the king, you've got Crocodile.
Where everything is in this country. The number one priority on Vivi's list at this point is to prevent the rebellion, and so she elects that the best course of action is to not flee.
They do travel different places, don't they? It's quite cool.
The rebel leader in an oasis called across a vast desert. This is great fundamentally, as we needed a concrete goal to aim for as an audience, but it also sheds more light on Vivi's character. She's smart, but she's also incredibly brave and determined.
Definitely, especially when you find out she would fight this guy when they were kids. Like
Karu,
that's the one.
A long journey across another desert
so
to relay
cool.
a message to her father directly at the palace. The contents being proof of Crocodile's true identity using information
that he's, the leader of Baroque Works and that.
Wednesday. Once again, this is another example of the seeds Oda planted like 50 chapters ago now bears fruit for the story,
absolutely amazing,
making it that much more rich. And finally, to give context as to why Mr. 2 had been traveling back to Alabasta, it appears that all the high-ranking individuals among the criminal syndicate known as the Baroque Works had been told to gather for the first time to meet the leader known to them,
and to finally follow through with his plan. Final step of the plan.
Thus far in the series as an heroic
I liked him as a bad guy.
of Alabasta, seen as a savior to the country. And with the reveal of this plan, we learn a great deal about Crocodile as a character. He's charismatic, confident, does not accept failure, and is incredibly manipulative. He reveals that he's not interested in money or status, but instead military might. Revealing that he can obtain something that will give him absolute power once he gains access to it. And with that, each high-ranking member of the Baroque Works is given a specific mission.
I love how they handed it and then they burn it on the candles afterwards. That was class.
Ending the meeting by saying that his utopia starts tomorrow at 7 in the morning. This scene is great, but as I said, there's tons of characterization here for Crocodile in this section. Croc, naturally, at this point, is aware that the Straw Hat crew is alive.
But he's just so confident.
Alabasta right now with the princess. This naturally comes as a big surprise to Mr. 2, and so with that information, they all become aware that their secondary mission now is to prevent Princess Vivi from meeting with the rebel forces, as they have a vested interest in making this rebellion happen.
Well, they were friends as children as well, so she's going to have a bit of an influence on his decision.
Reveals himself from the shadows, offering his services once again. However, in a demonstration,
does not take that at all.
Croc sucks the moisture from Mr. 3's body before throwing him into a massive banana crocodile pit. It's an horrific scene, but a fantastic one that really, really sells.
And it helps later on.
The progression of these three plot threads, watching them develop, complicate, and intertwine, left me sincerely with my jaw on the floor as I watched Oda juggle and keep track of so many.
There's so much stuff going on. It's incredible.
I like to pretend that he was spending sleepless nights constructing this with cork boards and connecting string all over his office, because this arc is nuts. And
It
one
is
storytelling mechanic
so
Oda
good.
loves to use ad nauseum is that of the flashback, and I don't say that in a disparaging way either. Oda's goal is to make this world feel real and lived in, and in order
So
for that to
everyone
be the
makes
case,
sense.
there needs to be history.
Yeah.
And in a similar fashion as the rest of the series, this arc is the recipient of its very own flashback sequences. The first concerning the childhood of Princess Vivi and how she came to befriend the now leader of the rebel forces, an individual called Koza, and his father Toto. It's enlightening, it's heartwarming watching as Koza saves her life,
Mate,
and
when he fights the guy with the sword with a stick, he gets like sliced and he just knocks him out. That was epic. It was like, I was literally like, whoa! He's very nice.
His framing at the hands of Crocodile all the more infuriating and sad, elevating the character of Croc once again in our eyes as someone who needs to be dealt with.
Yeah, he's a bad man, bad Crocodile man, bad Crocodile man, bad.
And manipulate the weather. And that's essentially what the rebels led by Koza are looking to overthrow the king for.
Yeah, they want that stuff.
Causing this drought or abstaining from calling upon more rain for the kingdom due to him being
But if you use the artificial stuff, it then makes it last longer, the drought, doesn't it, from my understanding?
Character, as interesting as he is, comes in the form of his father, who the gang encounter once they reach
Toto.
now almost entirely deserted
Digging that hole trying to find some water.
where Koza is a radical rebel for justice looking to overthrow what he believes to be an evil cold king. Toto, his father, is an incredibly loyal, kind, and hard-working
Tells him to
man,
believe in the
still
king,
keeping
man.
his faith in the
Believe.
king, trying to do
Yep.
his best in keeping the promise he made to him in building a town in Yuba. And in meeting this lovely but now starving, overworked
Because, yeah, he was big in the flashbacks, wasn't he?
makes this story of One Piece so special to me. Despite the tale being grand in scope, ambitious in its telling, and masterful in its execution, Oda always seems to find time to create pockets of story that are beautifully intimate between one or two characters.
Yeah.
The one I'm referring to in this instance
that's
is
brilliant.
Luffy's helping of the old man dig for water,
Yeah,
trying to keep the
it's
oasis
nice.
alive long into the night. It offers a window
He
into
finds it, man, and then Luffy uses it and it helps him. Ah!
That reminds me why I love Luffy and the writing of the series. Luffy, who had been notorious for wasting food and water throughout the story, now treats this water, Yuba's
Very,
water, with respect
very,
and care.
very much so,
He knows
yes.
how much this means to the old man. He knows where it
Yeah,
came
she's like,
from.
drink it,
He knows
waste it.
what
And he's like, you
represents
can't waste this.
hope for the future of this country. It's a wonderfully intimate and subtle metaphor that encapsulates this entire story in the most precious of ways that sincerely brought a tear to my eye. And what's most impressive about this is, we haven't even really started yet.
No.
The suspense. The more time we spend in the massive area of Alabasta, the more it reveals to us its customs, cultures, geographical formations, and wildlife, which all play in
They were cool.
creating funny moments.
And I love how they came back as well. They're loyal to Luffy now because he taught them stuff.
Later in the story to push the plot forward. For instance,
Kung
the clothing
Fu,
keeps the gang from overheating
something.
in the desert. Vivi, however, doesn't mind the heat at all.
Yeah, she's used to it. Yeah.
The massive deserts that cover the country act also as obstacles that Oda uses to great effect. This isn't like any other story where we can just cut and the gang is suddenly where they want to be.
That happens so often, yeah.
They have to provide a means
They
by
are
which to
traveling.
cross it. If there's a desert, they have to make sure that they have supplies. And as I'm sure you're starting to appreciate right now, this makes the story feel all the more impressive and detailed to me. And not to mention adds to the suspense of the occasion, which isn't helped as once they arrive and finish helping the old man in Yuba, they all immediately realize that not only are the rebels not where
They need to go
thought
somewhere
were,
else.
but they are also getting ready to march on the palace tomorrow. The same day the Utopia plan is happening with Croc.
My God, coincidence?
Don't know about yet, but we do. See how this dramatic irony is slipping into the story to create even more tension for us, the reader, specifically.
Boss.
And so, instead of journeying all the way back to the rebels at the beginning, Luffy decides that attacking the source of the
We
trouble
gotta go to
is the
Crocodile.
best course of action.
Yeah.
And after a particularly heated
They
scene
fight each other, it's
between
class.
Vivi, it's decided that Croc is going down.
We're gonna kick his butt.
Target. And this is where things really start to pick up and get interesting for me, and let me tell you, it doesn't slow down from this point onwards at all.
Nope.
In response to learning Croc's true motives via Vivi's message, the king orders his military leaders to gather his forces and march on Rainbase, where Croc is stationed.
Yep.
And what's great about this scene is that it gives the king another chance to endear himself to us, for despite knowing that the rebels are going to be here soon, he still instructs
Still going
his
anyway.
defenses to leave the palace where he is and attack
And they're
the real
cool.
source of danger. He wants only to protect his people. He doesn't care about his palace, and what's more is this also builds more tension as the Straw Hats arrive in Croc's town, which leads nicely into one of my favorite sequences
There we
in
go.
the arc. As once they arrive in the town, Oda introduces a nice little game of
With
cat and
Smoker.
mouse between Smoker, his subordinates, and the Straw Hat crew.
Yes,
Essentially,
that was
the gang
brilliant, the way they
gets
just like all over them.
the casino where
Run away!
is. However, this doesn't go to plan, and due largely to Luffy's lack of preparation and respect for how powerful Croc really is, most of the Straw Hats and Smoker
They get captured.
by Croc and miss all Sunday in a cage with
We get a nice little explanation though about something that's already there. That was funny when they... But Smoker's sword immobilizes Luffy because it's got a certain thing in the end of it. I thought that was interesting. And the cage is made out of that as well. And they don't completely understand it. I thought that was cool.
The king now can't advance his army without his other military leader. It's all going Croc's way, which makes us despair for anything good to happen in favor of the group. But before I get into what
that's cool, he's like Mr. Prince.
the entire story, I think it's important to point out something I didn't like. And while this is really the only thing I didn't like in the entire story, I thought it worth mentioning in the interest of transparency.
Okay, go on.
Around this point, we're greeted by another flashback demonstrating some of Koza's past, and also an audience he had with the king himself. Instead of having a normal conversation like humans about specific things and giving specific answers, the two decide to play the let's speak in vague, ambiguous ways game so that one of us will leave the conversation with the wrong impression of the other. Koza asks the king question after question, spiraling further into misunderstanding as the king gives vague responses. If he had gone into any detail to explain his situation, his circumstances, and his own worries, there would have been no confusion. But he doesn't, and as we are aware, becomes the leader of the rebel forces. This is the only thing in the arc I didn't like, and it sort of created artificial tension, which is a shame.
Didn't really stand out to me, but okay.
Fantastic job of creating real tension everywhere else. But back to the Bond Village Crocodile scenario.
Okay.
Possibly my favorite scene in the entire series so far. His plan is fully explained, as all great supervillain plans are.
Yep,
but
must tell everyone everything.
Makes Croc a wonderfully fun and playful villain. He sees two things that Vivi loves and forces her to choose.
Yeah.
Giving her the chance to make the impossible journey
That looked
across
cool.
the desert and water to try to stop the rebellion, or to save her friends as they are trapped in a cage.
Throws the key into the thing with the crocodile, swallows it.
Apparently inside the stomach of one of the several crocodiles in his possession. Sort of a Sophie's Choice situation, but that's not even the good part. You see, just as Croc and Miss All Sunday are about to leave, Restaurant Le Crap calls the snail phone,
and he recognizes the phone call, yeah.
Sanji and Chopper are both still free, and they have thought of a plan to help their situation.
Mr. Prince
Recognizes the voice as the same one that was at Little Garden, and to put the cherry on top of this cake, Sanji refers to himself in the call, protecting his true identity, going under the alias of Mr. Prince. Because he fully intends on rescuing the princess.
Oh yeah.
I laughed out loud reading that, and it was made all the more satisfying by just how awful and not at all according to plan the day has gone so far. So it's incredibly cathartic on one hand to see Croc,
and then Chopper distracts him, and yeah, it's cool.
Thrown into his face. And what's more is, as Chopper
there we go.
distracts Croc outside, something
I love it when he goes small and walks away.
Ridiculously awesome happens. All right, so we find out that this key that they had been.
I loved this. Wasn't even the key.
Tell you, I did expect them to get out, but I never would have guessed
the way they did it with Mr. 3.
What happens next? So Sanji begins beating up the banana crocs until one of them spits out this ball. It's Mr. Friggin' 3.
He made a wax ball to protect himself. Yeah, I love this. This is amazing. And then the whole key thing, it's like, yes, that makes sense. Like, how could Crocodile ever predict that happening? How?
Now is that Luffy finally had this opportunity to clobber Croc. Let me tell you, this didn't go at all like I was expecting it to. I mentioned in my last video that I really didn't like King Wapol, and on top of him largely being uninteresting to me, he also didn't offer Luffy any challenge whatsoever.
Yeah, there wasn't. He was a very quick villain. Like, I didn't have that much complaints like he had, like, in his review, but Crocodile, my god.
This battle he has with Croc, and I use the word battle loosely. When I first read through it,
you just can't hit him.
Set an entirely different tone in this
yeah. It's like, how's it going to go down? How's he going to do anything? And then he doesn't. Yeah, big deal. Big deal. Yep. Doesn't land a single hit. Drains him, yeah. And that's cool as well because it didn't quite out of nowhere. He did it to Mr. 3 for throwing him thinking it. I thought that was clever.
And the panels that come from this battle are honestly horrific. The most graphic being is the impalement on the hook of Croc. All the enthusiasm, confidence, and strength in the world couldn't save him.
Nope.
Didn't even
I was like, what the?
The gang now heading towards the kingdom, thinking that Luffy has Croc handled. The little pirate's limp corpse is thrown into some quicksand,
and then he's buried.
Way to the palace himself.
But
that's how you create suspense.
Yeah.
What an outrageous outrageously compelling sequence. I think it should go without saying that I was completely blown away at
Yeah,
this point.
it's like, whoa, what? And then he's saved by the woman, and it's like, the frickin' hell's going on? Okay. Cool. You're in the Air Force. The payoff.
The section of the payoff, not because this represents the climax necessarily, but because this is the
Oh
section
my
where
god,
every single
Usopp
bit of
tricking him with that hammer.
into the character
Oh, he has a
development
whack-a-mole game.
pays off and then some. And much like the rest of the series, this is spectacularly
Zoro's
paced and
fight
orchestrated.
is incredible.
At no point did I feel like something was boring or lacking. Everything was pitch perfect as the
Yeah.
Straw Hat crew made their way to the capital in their attempt to stop the agents of the Baroque Works, the rebellion, and ultimately prevent the country's collapse. Made all the more tense as, once again, utilizing
What happened to
dramatic
Luffy?
irony, we know that Luffy has failed hard, while the rest of the cast are none the wiser. But if I'm being
But they believe in him,
completely honest
man.
here, the feeling of camaraderie and togetherness this arc, and really the rest of this series has fostered, creates this incredibly unique atmosphere, and as the gang triumphantly rides into the city with their plan in mind, it feels both epic and fun. Especially
Yeah, it does.
when this marks the first time the forces of good have outsmarted the forces of the Baroque Works in this arc on their first attempt, with Oda placing each individual member of the Straw Hat crew like chess pieces to manifest the single most interesting fight sequences he possibly could. You see, at the time that they arrive at the capital, it's been made known to us that the forces of the Baroque Work have, as I alluded to earlier, been given specific roles to carry out, and on top of that, lesser members have also infiltrated the army of the king and the rebels.
Yeah, so like when it all goes down, they can start cause confusion. I hated that. That was so frustrating to see. In a good way, like, oh, I hate those guys.
Agent or group of agents in some cases, which offers up just a bunch of really fun matchups and scenarios, not to mention fight scenes. And there are 4 of these.
Oh my god, the fight! Zoro's fight's incredible.
Mr. 4 and Miss Christmas. There's Sanji versus Mr. 2.
That was cool. That was class.
There's Zoro versus Mr. 1.
Yo.
Each fight sequence is given its own
Usopp
space.
just does not give up, man.
What's more is that they also ascertain a particular pecking order within the group themselves in terms of who among them is the most capable and weakest based on their
Nami's
roles.
fight was
And on top
very
of that,
ass pully,
each operative
but I
story
enjoyed it
to
nonetheless because she just
stay.
actually attempted to
While
fight.
this section is mainly concerned with the fight scenes, conflicts might be a better word to use, as this is a team effort and Vivi is very much involved in this struggle too, albeit not directly in battle, but instead the opposite, trying to prevent the battle itself from happening between the kingdom and its people. And despite being put into the perfect circumstance to prevent this battle from even happening, Croc arrives and, you guessed it, ruins it.
Yep.
So before we get into these battles that I mentioned
Oh,
earlier,
the
I
smoke
want
where
to
they just miss each other. The manga panel looks so good. So good. I was literally, no!
One of her friends, and he does so by trying to apprehend Vivi pretending to be Usopp, armed even with some of the cloth around his left
The
arm.
cloth,
However,
the
after
cloth.
he calls Karoo Bird, Vivi's suspicions are piqued, and when asked to prove his identity, he shows the cloth on his arm. But what we didn't know as an audience was that there was a part 2 to that plan of theirs from the beginning.
They got X's
marked
underneath,
themselves with an X,
So if anyone does actually try to use that as a thing, remove it.
who they are.
So, and he
Which
doesn't do
honestly
that,
is a
so it's like,
really
ooh,
smart thing, I think.
that was really clever.
Actually, because he didn't show this
Because it
X,
tricked us as
he
well.
runs, and this is when the battles take place, both with the rebellion and with the fight scenes in the
He
series so
gets
far.
absolutely,
I feel
like,
we're
battered.
but this story keeps getting better.
Yeah.
These aren't just whatever bland filler fights.
No,
These
they're
surface the
intense.
characters and obviously the story too. But what I love most about this section is how it's structured. It doesn't at all feel like we're waiting for Luffy to show up,
Nope.
or like this is sort of stalling on behalf
Yeah,
of
it doesn't. It's just going. It's ongoing. This is the story.
Fighting and rebellion in Alabasta, and so that's precisely what the others are doing in their individual fights right now. Sure, Luffy fighting Croc will play a role later, I'm sure, but
Hell,
all of these individual
yeah.
battles have massive importance and implications within the
They're
story.
helping each
These
character
fights don't
develop
end in
as well.
favor of the Straw Hats. It's over. And what's more is we're made to feel that with the time this section is given to breathe. In Dragon Ball, you'd be hard-pressed to find a long stretch of chapters that don't at least show Goku once. Heck,
Yeah.
even when Goku's out of commission, Toriyama
We keep
would
seeing
always
him in
switch
the-
back to him healing
yeah.
a tank or something. But in this story, Luffy is treated as if he's no longer a factor, like he's being taken care of. And that's because what's happening now is more important than him. This shows us
Definitely.
his
Story
confidence in the
progression.
story
We need to know what's
and
going on in
writing.
Alabasta,
One of
man.
the reasons why this series works so friggin' well for me. It's not
it's
a
so well
one-note,
written.
one character-led show. They're a team. They're a family.
Hell,
And
yeah.
having gone on this journey with them for all of these chapters, I can't help but feel part of that too. It's a great sensation, unlike anything I've ever experienced reading a manga.
The fights.
Usopp
Oh.
Chopper versus Mr. 4 and Miss Christmas.
Do you know what? I thought it was going to be rubbish, this. I was like, oh, but it was pretty damn good, man. The way they were figuring out how their powers work and that, working together.
this fight scene right away, with both characters looking to the other to help come up with a plan or
Yeah.
to run for help.
The whack-a-mole game.
Hilarious moments implementing some of Usopp's trademark running away tactics and deceit.
The trickery, man.
For both characters, their resolve and courage when faced with what turned out to be massively powerful foes. Ending on what I thought was a brilliantly heartfelt note as Usopp goes through hell and back to provide Chopper the opening to deliver the final blow. And I also really sort of like the mechanisms that Chopper introduces to fight scenes. He eats this rumble ball and it gives Oda an excuse to do something clever when he uses it to enhance brain function for Chopper. And the ideas he comes up with in this fight really did take me by surprise. Of all the fights that take place before the main one, this one might actually be my favorite.
Oh really? Okay.
Others aren't great. Also, I think one aspect that this fight had over the others that makes it an unfair comparison is that it had a team dynamic that we don't often
Right,
see.
okay, I'll give you that. Yeah, it's fun to see. That was fun to see them working together. Because Usopp and Chopper are not the two that you put together, like, normally. Sanji's fight against Swan is really, really good. I really like it. It's funny in parts, but it was also quite, like, cool. The kicking in it. Zoro's fight's the best for me, though, in my opinion. Like, obviously, not over Luffy and Crocodile, but, oh.
For example, after Princess Vivi discovers that the fake Usopp is actually Mr. 2 in disguise, Sanji, as if his princess senses were tingling, swoops in to save the day. And
sorry, Mr. 2, not Mr. 3.
Very tongue-in-cheek Mr. Prince character that made this arc feel all the more fun for me. And if I'm being honest, I don't really like characters like Roshi from Dragon Ball or Brock from Pokemon because they always seem very one-note and boring.
Yeah, he has his moments though, Sanji.
But with the Sanji character, Oda combines his confidence and his appreciation for the girls of this world to create a Prince Charming wannabe take on him that is both funny and appropriate for the setting.
Yeah, it fits.
Is that Sanji's fight with Mr. 2 provides him the most interesting challenge as
animated looks good, man.
Women in his life like Nami, requiring him to face his greatest weakness and to find means around that, which he eventually does. Overall, I really enjoyed this.
Was the thing that, like, he can't use his karate technique without touching his left hand and turning back to his normal self? That's how he beat him, wasn't it? Yeah.
One thing I wanted more than anything for Nami's character was for her to become more involved with the battles. Her character has always
This was like, oh, what are you doing? And then, okay. She didn't give up.
But with the situations in the Grand Line becoming more and more
Oh, she took those spikes to the foot, man.
saw fit to have Usopp develop for her very own special weapon. But what I didn't expect was how funny and disastrous it would be.
Every time she tries, like, ah!
Using this new weapon and the instructions,
and it's like, oh, it's on the back.
Overemphasis on party tricks, needless to say. But watching Nami try and figure out how this staff worked in order to best Miss Doublefinger was
like she's frustrated. She's like, I need to win.
For her weapon to utilize aspects navigators have to keep in mind, like weather conditions, was a really nice touch. While this might not be the most epic of fights, it certainly provided a leg up for Nami as a character.
Definitely gave her something.
And it was damn funny.
She needed something, like.
Zoro versus Mr.
Oh
1.
my
Zoro's
god.
fight against Mr. 1 is another great matchup, not only because he has a body made entirely of steel blades and thus makes a great match for Zoro, but it's also interesting, as my editor had to point out to me, that in Mr. 1's very first debut scene, in the manga, the onomatopoeia that accompanies that panel is a sound associated with metal and blades. So if I was looking out for that, I could have, in a sense, discovered the nature of his power before even really being shown it.
Oh, cool.
Unusual, but very cool detail to add to your story. With that said, however, the main meat and potatoes of this sequence is basically Zoro can't cut through steel, so he takes it as a great opportunity to grow as a swordsman.
And try and cut through steel.
Shots in this exchange too, with Zoro lifting
the manga. Oh, mate.
Into his past that lead him to reach this state of power, where he can effectively hear everything. Or something like that. Ultimately, the fight ends in his favor, having been able to on this occasion cut through steel, but not having mastered this new
manga panel looks better than that.
To reiterate, as I said before, all of these fights served the story massively, and not only held my attention thoroughly, but they also entertained me, furthering the story of each of these
fight was so good.
narratives in new and
I like the little line where it's like, what are you going to do next? Cut through diamond? It's like, no, that'd be a shame to do that. I like that. That was funny. I like when a villain, like, accepts defeat and realizes that, like, he was, you know, yeah, no chance.
The ending is the moment where the story makes or breaks itself for many of us. A lot of people, when they now think of Game of Thrones, the first thing that pops into their head is the rushed ending and not the...
I didn't watch the last season, and I never will.
But when it comes to this arc,
I wanted to binge it in its entirety, and then I just didn't.
Immediately after the Straw Hat crew achieves their goal of taking out their respective targets, in a scene that is as compelling as it is tense, Croc reveals in front of Princess Vivi and the king that he is specifically after something called a poneglyph.
The poneglyph, yeah.
Miss All Sunday is able to read, and will use it to point him in the direction of something called a Pluton, a massively powerful tool of destruction he has been after since
Because he wants it, because like the government won't allow this, and it's like, that's fine, I just need the might, and then they will.
Needless to say, that's not good. But what's more is that in 30 minutes it's revealed a massive cannon
Bomb's gonna go off, man. Oh yeah, cannon bomb, yeah.
starting at the city, which achieves two things narratively. Firstly, it paints Croc as an even more insane psychopath.
He is mad. He'd do anything to get what he wants.
Throwing them into the situation wherein they won't survive, revealing to us that he trusts no one. But it also provides the Straw Hats with a new goal.
And he actually says that, like when she oh, that was so funny when he scratches it. Usopp does anything to win. It's so good. But yeah, when she reads it and it doesn't have what he wants, he says, well, it's over then, and I never trusted you in the first place anyway. When she tries to fight him, it's like he doesn't trust anyone. It's a very valid comment.
Suspenseful as we, or at least I, had no idea how this was going to be resolved. And there are little things here and there that fill my mind with wonder and appreciation for this story.
Yeah.
Like, there's this moment where Vivi convinces the forces of the palace and the rebels to stop fighting in an effort to evacuate the city.
But then the Baroque work, guys.
Significant difference. But Croc says in passing so many chapters ago that he sent some of his lesser forces to infiltrate the ranks of both the palace guard.
So they're gonna mess it all up. So it doesn't come out of nowhere.
Baroque Works members within the battle continue the fighting by shooting Koza. Inciting a massive riot, and once again the battle continues. It's spectacular, and I never saw it coming. So what are they going to do now? There's such a
it does keep escalating. It's like
tension. With the rebellion going to hell, Zoro gravely injured now after his battle with Mr. One, a bomb about to go off in like 15 minutes, and now Croc apprehends Princess Vivi, dangling her over a massive.
Oh, the way he just makes his arm disappear to make her go. Oh, that was class. Use his power to like just show it. The way he laughs.
It's time to explode once again with optimism soaring through the air on the back of a once thought to be dead.
Come on, Luffy! Get in there, save the day.
The payoff for all the time spent without Luffy comes flying in to inject some
Bam!
light into this dark situation. But that's not to say the tension is gone either. We know how Luffy handled or didn't handle Croc the last time, and there's still
he was handled.
to win the day against
no!
7 warlords of the sea. And as Luffy catches Vivi, she starts to break down. Similar to how Nami did so during the Arlong Park.
I never thought that, yeah.
Vivi has been trying everything in her power to make the difference to save her country, her kingdom, her people. Vivi grabs
It's the most important thing to him.
her face slowly crumbling before him. She weeps over the fact that no one can hear her, that everyone will die, that everything will be lost.
So much bloodshed, that's what you keep saying, isn't it?
Luffy simply responds, "Don't worry, I can hear your voice."
Yeah.
What a fantastic
Yeah, he does there, that was nice.
With that, Luffy launches himself
Whoop.
head first to
Let's
Croc
go, Crocodile.
with hesitation,
And then just bang! He hits him, it's like, oh, what?
He's able to cover himself head to toe in it, which allows him to make contact with Croc.
That made so much sense, because it happened in the last thing just before. He got stabbed with the water, didn't he? And he grabbed his arm.
And that's not even my favorite part. The symbolism here is sensational. Yuba's water allowed Luffy to touch Croc.
Yeah.
Croc even mentioned during the fight that Luffy didn't stand a chance in this dry climate, but what's even better is that the water being used symbolizes the trust of the king and the love he had for his people and the love they had for him. The water from Yuba wouldn't have been there had the old man not believed in his country
And carried on doing what he was doing, yeah.
And love, that power of Alabasta is going to provide Luffy the means with
to
which
beat
to take
Croc,
out his biggest foe, Crocodile. I'm utterly speechless with how well
boss
this
is
all
so
plays
well
together
constructed.
thematically. And in addition to that, it also provides a reason as to why Croc wanted specifically to steal the rain from the country.
Yeah, because like if it rained, he's screwed.
And to remove his weakness entirely.
Yeah, there's no water, no one can beat him.
My God, this is amazing.
Yeah.
On top of that, not only are Croc's powers of sand and dehydration great for a villain, but his motivations and decisions also help cement him as, for me, the absolute best villain this series has shown us thus far. No contest, not even close. Don't at me.
Yeah, he's. Yeah, I agree with you on that.
Luffy finally getting some great hits on him. Luffy drinking all the water, and even a particularly
Yeah, that was funny, man. Where he went, big, but no.
Which he manages to find a way out of using very clever tactics.
Well, it was lucky. It weren't clever. He fired a load of bubbles at him into the air, and as he fell, he did what Goku did with the Kamehameha, and it just brought him back. He did it in Super, didn't he, when Hit tried to kill him. It wasn't clever.
However, and unfortunately for the Straw Hat crew, it's revealed that the bomb itself is on a timer anyway, as a contingency plan set by Crocodile. But at the last second,
mate.
what was once again a moment I absolutely didn't see coming,
No.
Pell swoops down and sacrifices himself for the kingdom. And once again, The way it's panelled, the way it's timed, the way it's carried
It's
out by
emotional.
Oda, I cried.
Yeah.
That's twice I've cried in this arc so far. And with that out of the way, Luffy just barely manages to take out Croc in what ended up being an incredibly scrappy fight, with Luffy even resorting to use his own blood to hit
Yeah, he's like...
Crocodile. And if that wasn't enough, the final problem still remained. They had to stop the rebellion.
You've not mentioned the woman and the tablet and...
over the kingdom because he was the one preventing it. Bringing an end to that long drought, echoing
the fact that she saved Luffy. I find that weird.
The fighting will end.
I hope he mentions it, like, near the end. There's only 3 minutes left. I feel that's going to be really important for, like, future.
This arc has left me utterly speechless on so many occasions, and it still has one left to get me with. And those of you that have seen this arc, you know what I'm going to be talking about, and that's Vivi's goodbye at the end. And this was much more touching than I thought it was going to be. Having spent the entire
I thought she was going to join them, but I'm glad she didn't. It made sense.
Little Garden Drum Island, and now this, the Alabasta Arc, she's become a staple of the crew, but
yeah.
I think Oda made the right decision ultimately by...
The way Smoker, like, deals with, like, him getting the medals as well, I thought was boss. Like, Smoker's getting a bit of a character stuff. Something's going to be happening with him. The way he's telling the Navy, no, don't want them. The Straw Hats were the heroes. Whoa.
Zoro wants to become the greatest swordsman in the land.
Yeah.
Nami wants to map the world. Sanji wants to find the All Blue.
The All Blue.
Usopp wants to become a great warrior of the sea, and Chopper wants to learn
Science.
enough about medicine to cure anything. But Princess Vivi wanted to save her.
It was about Alabasta. It's all about Alabasta.
And while I will miss her, I think the decision she ultimately makes is a good one.
Yeah, it was
if she
best.
had stayed, we wouldn't have gotten one of the best
That
standoffs
was
ever
boss.
seen any character get in a series of any kind. With the X on their arm reminding Luffy of a small but really nice moment between the two in the early days of the saga. It definitely brought a tear to my eye once again, and left me with a whirlwind of emotions to end what was, without an ounce of hyperbole, the single greatest manga reading experience of my life.
It was incredible.
Thank you,
Absolutely
Oda, for writing this true epic
incredible.
and what makes this even better is that
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
little hints of more to come and to expect in the
Yes.
story. Specifically with the character of Miss All Sunday, who we learn is called Nico Robin.
Nico Robin,
I
yeah,
didn't mention this in the review, but she saved Luffy after that first fight with Croc. She betrayed him and now at the very end wants to be one of the Straw Hats. So I have literally no idea what to make of this. But the chaotic energy with which this story is progressing and how vulnerable my emotions feel with
Like, she even mentions the name of D, doesn't she, as well? It's like... And she's a big deal. She got a huge bounty on her from, like, however many years ago already. I'm sure I'm missing. She is OP though, man. Like, when she's like, is that Whitebeard? Yeah, that guy that does the weather, yep.
I don't have the first idea where he fits into all of this.
No.
Don't even get me started on the misunderstanding Ace had on Drum Island looking for Luffy or Blackbeard. I don't want to say I think time travel is involved, but it feels like it might be, or that people, broadly speaking, are using dated info if they think that Blackbeard is gone. And in addition to that, I'm really excited to see how Robin plays a role into all of this.
Yeah.
He definitely doesn't feel like a good guy character right now, but is definitely distinct enough from the rest of them
She
to make
feels
him very
integral.
interesting to remember, if nothing else. But with that all finally done, this is where the Alabasta arc ends and where my review ends. Tune in next week when I'll be reviewing Jaya and the Skypia arcs in full. I honestly can't wait to see what's to come, but as always, I've been Totally Not Mark. I'll see you all next week, and thank you so much for watching.
Damn. Yeah. I mean, that was good. Missed bits out. Like, and it's a long review. Like, Smoker. I feel like Smoker has been given more of a on-screen presence to show that something's going to happen with him down the line. He disagrees with the way that the Navy are dealing with the situation. I thought that was kind of important, and the way that the woman who Zoro can't fight, he ran away because she reminds him of his friend. I feel like those two are going to have something really big down the line. And yeah, that was... Yeah, I've really, really enjoyed the Alabasta Arc so much, and I'm straight onto the... Is it Skypia? I've got all of them. I've got volumes... I've got up to volume 72 of the manga in my possession, so I will be reading them. And I was trying to put one out every Monday, but I think it's going to be every other Monday, because obviously I have... I try and upload a video every day, except for Sunday, where I do a live stream for an hour, and then I have a full-time job as well, so like I try and read it when I can, and yeah, so it might be every other Monday. And then I've got my other videos as well, so thank you guys very much for watching. What do you guys think of that? What do you guys think of this? Click like, subscribe if you haven't already. Leave comments down below. Let me know how to watch us in future videos, and I'll see you guys, just all you guys, next time.